Welcome back. Well, now we'll be talking about sports, looking ahead of Nigeria-Sudan match, about the Africa Cup of Nations. Nnamdi Obanya joins us again today. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Good to be here.
Well, this, first of all, let's even start off with Keshi's position, because, I mean, you see it in papers where he says he's not desperate for the Eagles job. And then the Super Eagles players and other clubs that are doing well, that people expect to see in the club, there's this break back just going on between him and them. What's going on?
It's a bit funny, and it's creating a lot of room for unwanted rumors. First of all, with regards to Keshi's position, his contract is over. It's either the rumor or word on the streets, let's call them unconfirmed rumors, have it that it's a pay-as-you-go arrangement now. While Keshi did come out once to say he's just doing it because he wants to help the Eagles. He's not on that contract, he's just helping. At the same time, we hear rumors that they might be bringing Keshi or Oliseh back, that they're already lined up. Yeah, that they are thinking of bringing Oliseh in or bringing Siasia back. Then we hear statements credited to the new NFF president that a foreign coach could also be in the thoughts of the Football Federation. So it's all a bit messy in terms of who is going to be Nigeria's manager. But at this point, where you'd expect Keshi to just get the job done and let the multitude, if I can say so, speak for you, as it happened before when there were rumors about him being removed from his job and everybody came behind him. We already know that after the fiasco of resigning immediately after the Nations Cup and the tantrums before bringing out the list for the World Cup, there's a strange relationship between Keshi and the NFF already, that's for certain. With regards to players, a lot of players have been dropped or picked by Keshi. Many people don't agree with, some people agree with. But the question of Ike Uche, who just can't stop scoring, it has come up again. Recently, Keshi came out to say he actually put Ike Uche's name on the list for players to be called up for South Africa. Then he said he called him on the phone, but he didn't tell him he had called him up. He just spoke to him. And he then said that he instructed the person in charge of getting visas to call the team manager to call the players and ask who had a South African visa, so anybody who didn't have could have their passports processed. He said Ike Uche was called and was wondering why he was being called and asked if he had a South African visa. And you know that the complaint, maybe there was a complaint that he was rude, and Keshi said his name should be taken off the list. That why is he asking why they would ask him? My question to Keshi is, you might say you didn't like his response, but did you tell him he was invited? Was a letter sent? You've dropped him so many times from the team. You said you're not going to pick him. You're very tactically indisciplined. So,
but what was our manner of calling players to the squad? Do we normally write letters to them?
Normally, it should be formal invitation sent to the club for the club to release the player. They can't just release your player. There's a formal invitation. The player too will be notified. So if you haven't told the player there's been no formal invitation, I think he's well within his rights to ask if anybody calls and says, do you have a South African visa? I'm going to ask you why first. I'm not going to tell you yes or no. Why are you asking me? So it's getting very messy, very petty, and it's not really going down well with a lot of people. The same thing about Femi Martins, 58.5% of votes voted September Player of the Month in the US, scoring goals for fun there. Keshi says he's too old. Iheanacho is too young. Mikel has barely made any impact on his club side this season.
Is Iheanacho not injured? Has he recovered?
Well, this was before we don't know Iheanacho's injury state now. The injuries we're sure of is Victor Moses and Michael Babatunde. Okay. They are the two we're sure are injured. But this was when he was asked why he hadn't called Iheanacho in. You know, that he's Nigeria's natural playmaker and Keshi is too young. That he should leave space for others who are to play now. And Obafemi is supposedly too old to be in the squad. And I don't know. I think sometimes I question Keshi's rationale for his decisions. I mean, having a player like Iheanacho, who is a natural 10, helps you bridge that gap between attack and midfield that we have in Nigeria, which Congo is so exposed. There's so much space between the attack and the midfield that teams have time to put 3-4 passes together before they even get anywhere else and spread our defense very easily. The same thing, bringing on Martins allows you to change your attacking formation. Right now, we are so predictable. Musa and somebody else.
Babatunde has pulled off.
He's pulled out with injury. You know, normally it would be Moses and Musa flanking Emenike. We are very predictable in how we line up. Bringing in Martins, it changes things. You can drop Emenike behind Martins.
What if we get a result against Sudan? Will the narrative change?
There will be no congratulations if we get a result against Sudan. This is a
Really?
team that
As opposed to getting a loss?
This is a team that has not won anything in the group. Oh, there'll be repercussions and there'll be mobs in the streets if we lose to Sudan.
What if we draw?
If we draw, you would still get a feeling of anger because a win is expected against over these two legs. There's no reason why Nigeria should be panicking about a team that both Congo and South Africa beat. You know, the reason why everybody is so afraid is because we lost at home to Congo and we drew in South Africa. We looked very blank in South Africa, very flat, very bland, and we looked very immobile against Congo. The fact that we are a very static team was exposed. We couldn't close down spaces, we couldn't chase people. They were running circles around us, literally. We've always said that Keshi might be a good man manager, but he's tactically deficient. A lot of people don't like when you say that, but the truth is it's getting exposed over and over again. We saw what happened when he came against a technically astute coach, a coach who had studied Nigeria and who knew what to do and who knew how to get the better of us, put fit, fast guys, and let them run circles around the Nigerians, and we couldn't cope.
If we get an Oliseh to coach the team, are we going to be able to let him do it without the federation saying no? We have a saying also in who you pick.
Well, this is where my greatest fear and reservations about the new NFF bodies. As much as at state level I've seen them perform, it has always been because we're working with a governor who was ready to back them. Now, even though the presidency has said they're guaranteeing support for the PNIC administration, the truth is you have people from all over Nigeria there, so there will be politics. And Oliseh is not exactly somebody you can put in an environment of politicking and horse trading. He's a straight arrow. He's going to raise hell, if I can use that phrase.
No, but he knows, Oliseh should know.
Yeah.
We reckon that, look, federations across the country have a say in what happens to the national team. They find out who to play and who not to play sometimes.
The problem now is, if he's going to be held responsible for results, then he should be allowed to pick who he's going to try and use to get
100%
those results. Yes, really, I think a team coach, you can have a technical team that works with the coach, that helps him monitor players, but on the final list, who goes out there on the bench and on the pitch, I think that's up to the coach. You know, you can't tell me to use a player. He might not go well with my formation.
But I can tell you to invite this player.
You can invite, but you can't force me to put him in my squad. He might not go well with any of the formations I have planned. I can't have 4 strikers and you want me to bring 1 more.
What if they say, okay, if we don't want to be seen intervening directly with your tactical plans and maybe who you pick, what did they say? Well, this is a list of where or the kind of players that you can invite to the national team. You cannot go below the standard. Would that be acceptable?
The only thing that you can't say, because you don't know who will be the next gem. The only thing the Football Federation can do is say, look, we want a quota of 4 to 6 players for the Nigerian Premier League. We want this quota for local players. We don't care who you pick from the local league, but you as the coach, in every 18 to 23 man squad, must have 6 to 8 local players. That's as far as they can go. You know, you can't really determine who a coach uses. If a coach discovers a boy who might be relatively unknown, but is very quick and he knows he needs somebody with pace in a particular position, you can't tell him not to pick him because you believe you have somebody else he should use. The only glaring thing is when you have like 2 players based on their records and their performances with their clubs, and then you have a coach picking one person who is not doing as well. You could raise eyebrows, but that's as far as you can go. A federation should not really intervene with who the coaches pick. You can look over it, you can supervise, you can appoint technical teams to quiz the coach on why he's picking them, but if he has his reasons, then you have to let him go with that team.
But then, this qualifications now, we've got Sudan. I think it's a 2-leg affair now,
yes,
home and away.
Against Sudan.
So I was supposed to get, or we're expected to get 6 points. What if we get anything short of 6 points?
Anything short of that, and we start praying for the 3rd best qualifier, for the best qualifier, because the truth is, Congo have 6 points, South Africa have 4 points. They're meeting with a double header against each other. The nightmare scenario is that Congo wins their 2 legs against South Africa, and by the time they beat Nigeria again, they are well and truly qualified.
But South Africa, they've beaten Congo in the last how many matches now?
But you see,
head to head, they have an advantage.
Head to head, they have an advantage, and everybody. That's what we would have all been saying too when Nigeria was to face Congo at home.
No, but this is a much improved SA side.
It's a much improved SA side, but it's also a very, very, the Congo plays as a unit. Congo is a team. You know, we don't like to always use that reference, but remember Nigeria of '94, old Ghanaian sides where you couldn't pick out the star man. They were great teams. That's what Congo is becoming. A team that just doesn't have individuals, but play for each other. So South Africa much improved, but I think it's all the early euphoria of a new coach. The truth is, one bad result and everything gets shaky again.
But do you think that Keshi will have that presence of mind, that concentration? Because at the moment, he doesn't have a contract with the Federation.
Yeah.
He's doing it on, as you say, as some say, pay-as-you-go basis. And then all these arguments and counter-arguments concerning who to pick, who was rude, and who should be left out of the team. Can he overcome all of those and get to the pitch and get the result?
I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. But I think that mentally, Stephen Keshi is no longer with the Super Eagles, at least at this moment. There are very few people who, with all the circumstances surrounding what is going on now, would still be 100% in the job. The truth is, he has to think of right now, his future. Right now, what people are saying about him. Right now, what options he has out there. Right now, what players who didn't get picked are saying about him. The fact that people are saying he must qualify, and with the other side of their mouth saying he should go.
But are we treating him well? Because this chap won us a Nations Cup.
No, if it's about treating well, Keshi has never been treated well. If it's about being treated well, Stephen Keshi has never been treated well. People might argue that the NFF might want to argue that Keshi has done some things that maybe embarrassed them, particularly the resignation in South Africa. But I think when you owe that many months to a coach who shouldn't be thinking about his salary, but should be focusing on the national team, he's a human being too. He has bills to pay. Everything you promised him, car, house, this, you don't do any of those things. You expect him to face the job. Then you don't give him free hand completely in picking a team. I don't think Keshi has been respected or appreciated. It's the honest truth. And I think that for him to have stayed, it might probably be if I want to be very cynical, his way of getting what he can get before he leaves, or Keshi might just be the ultimate patriot. But whatever this case is, Keshi has not been treated well.
Thank you, Nnamdi, for coming on this morning. We'll be back after the break. Join us again. Well, let's take this before we wrap up. Ogbemi speaking about this Adamawa matter says, the episode of impeachment in the state is full of intrigues, horse trading, and political sagacity. And Gilari was spot on.
Igor, when a letter is wrongly directed to a person, it is the duty of the recipient to redirect it to the appropriate quarters.
But Jones also says there's no point probing into his intentions as there's no legitimate resignation.
Olusegun Ngilari did not do anything wrong. The speaker was just too overambitious.
Well, Aseri says the court will not be swayed by the political maneuvering. The trial court was correct.
Moses, there was an intent in the acts of the deputy governor, and this is what the prosecution needs to prove.
And wow, there you go. Well, that's it today. And for the entire week, as a matter of fact, thank you all. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
I'm Sulaiman Alede. Many thanks.